Hi everybody and welcome back to another episode of Faith Brunel's Insights. I'm Faith Brunel. Today in this episode we're going to talk about the Pomodoro method. Pomodoro method, it was basically created by Francesco Carrillo, and I'm going to talk to you a bit more about the context before we actually delve into why the Pomodoro method is actually effective. So as we mentioned before, it was developed by Francesco Carrillo in the late 1980s, and the technique actually takes its name from the tomato-shaped kitchen timer Carrillo used during his university years. This is a very simple but very powerful and impactful concept because you break your work or your study time into manageable intervals, typically 25 minutes, known as the Pomodoros. After each Pomodoro, you then take a short break of around 5 minutes. Once you complete 4 Pomodoros, you take a more extended break, typically around 15 to 30 minutes. And so before we actually delve into that, I just want to talk to you a little bit more about the Faith and Other Insights podcast and why today we're talking about the Pomodoro method. Let's talk a little bit more about Faith and Other Insights podcast. It is a how-to podcast where we talk about different study skills and study methods. And today we're talking about the Pomodoro method. So Faith and Other Insights it's a podcast where we delve into various study skills and educational strategies to help you to excel in your academic pursuits. So I'm your host, Faith Brunel, and today we have an exciting topic to discuss. This is the Pomodoro method, spelled Pomodoro. So this technique has actually gained a lot of popularity among students and professionals who are really looking for a way to manage their time more effectively. But also it boosts productivity and enhances focus. So grab your notebooks, grab whatever you use to take notes on, and let's get started. So actually, the Pomodoro method for me as a student, I've just finished my bachelor's at King's College London, reading politics. I just finished it. It was 3 years. And for me, the Pomodoro method still is a very, very important technique to actually employ. Why is that, you may ask? Well, for me, it actually does do what it says on the label. It does help boost productivity. It helps me enhance my focus. It helps me to feel more positive towards undertaking a certain study task. For example, if I had a seminar to prepare for, a seminar is basically typically an hour where you sit down and you with other students and you talk about the topic that you have been asked to read about or that you learnt about in the lecture, usually the day before or a couple of days before the actual seminar. And so if I was preparing for a seminar and let's say I was feeling quite tired, by the end of the day I'd come off the tube and I got back to my apartment and I was tired, I would basically set myself a study structure or a study kind of method or strategy or revision plan, which would basically feature the Pomodoro method. And so the Pomodoro method really helped me to boost my productivity, feel more engaged and excited towards actually completing a particular task. And so the Pomodoro method really does fit into this very fast-paced world that we currently find ourselves in, because distractions are everywhere. Procrastination can easily crop up on you if you're not effective in terms of mitigating it, in terms of having a plan. Because my dad always tells me, and continues to tell me, planning prevents poor performance. And so if you're not planning, if you don't prepare, you will have, the outcome will differ and it won't be as good as if you had prepared. Now, I'm not criticizing spontaneity. I'm quite spontaneous myself. However, I do still uphold the values of organization and planning beforehand as well. So if we manage our time effectively, we are actually able to make the most of our study sessions, the most of our time, and really accomplish more in less time. And so by splitting it into more manageable chunks, it allows you to actually feel more excited, you don't burn out as quickly, and you feel more engaged towards completing a particular task. Because burnout is something that has really cropped up more recently as well in the context of, it's for students, it's for professionals, it's for everybody really, because burnout is a physical and emotional state whereby you feel tired, you feel trapped in a certain situation, and it can be because you've been undergoing, for example, that you've undertaken recently, a job that's been very stressful or a degree that's very stressful as well, or whatever it may be. It's just led you to this kind of emotional and physical tiredness as well. And so the Pomodoro method would help against that, because some of the ways that people have advised that you actually mitigate this burnout kind of stage or this burnout feeling is by exercising, by journaling, by kind of de-stressing and kind of walking away from that particular stressor in your life and trying to find a way to mitigate it or reduce the stress actually attached to or that goes along with that particular task or that particular job or whatever it may be in your life as well. And so we've set the context of the Pomodoro method as well, developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s. We talked about that. And now the next section, what I'm going to actually get stuck into, is the benefits of using the Pomodoro method. Step number one is actually that the structured time intervals help you to A, maintain focus, and B, prevent burnout. We actually talked about burnout briefly in a previous episode, and there will be another episode talking a bit more about burnout in a bit more depth in terms of how you can actually mitigate burnout as well. So by dividing your study time into smaller manageable chunks, you avoid feeling overwhelmed and really overwhelmed really by the amount of work ahead of you. And additionally, the frequent breaks will allow your mind to recharge, ensuring that you can sustain your concentration for more extended periods. So the Pomodoro method, in theory, it might seem simple. However, there are some best practices that you can actually employ, that you can actually apply to enhance its effectiveness. Number one is to find a quiet and comfortable study environment. As a student, that is key for me. Being in a place where I can actually, I can concentrate without being distracted, without too many distractions is key. Because if I want to prepare for an examination, for example, prepare for examinations, I was actually revising in my room. Or I might have headed out to a cafe or a library, etc., etc. But it had to be in a place where I felt that I could get the most work done and be as productive as possible. So just to stem from that, really, this is to minimize distractions. You could silence your phone. You could place it in another room to avoid temptation to check notifications. Apple has this really great thing called the focus mode. And one of the focus modes I have created is study. I've got work, I've got God, etc., etc. And so whatever I'm doing in my day, I can put the focus on, and I can actually, in settings, I can actually choose which apps I will receive notifications from in that particular focus mode, who can contact me, etc., etc. And so it allows you to then start to think about, who you want to be contacted by, but wider than that, to think about in which kind of, to help you to enhance your productivity. And so the goal is to create that uninterrupted space for focused work. So I remember that in my secondary school, I was vehemently advised against revising in my bedroom because I was told that it would really crush all ounce of productivity. It would really kill my kind of productive, energy, etc. And it would just leave me, really disenfranchised towards studying and all of this as well. But however, my personal opinion, it works for me. Some days I do need to get a break from my bedroom. For example, yesterday I went out to a cafe and I studied, and it was very, very good because it was a nice change from my room. So I will go out and study elsewhere. You can go to libraries, you can go to cafes, you can go to other places as well. And you can actually, it's really a good way to actually, and you know what it actually helps you do? It helps you to actually understand which study environments are best for you. Because everybody studies and takes in information at a different pace, in a different way as well. Some of us are visual learners, some of us are other types of learners. So it really, really depends. Now, for myself, when it comes to memorizing information, I have a visual memory. I have a photographic memory. But then I also take in information in different ways as well, like an audio memory. Like, for example, I can think back to the lecture when a particular lecturer was teaching a certain skill and think, okay, what were they saying? How did they explicate it? How did they explain it, etc.? What scholars were given, and so on and so forth as well. So that's really that. So the first one is really to create, to find that quiet and comfortable study environment, which will help you to minimize distractions. Secondly, really, it's essential, it's salient, it's important to plan your study tasks in advance. So, for example, this would include basically making a list. So for myself, I use a diary from Melonio Products, which is my mom's business. I previously had one from Box Cleaver. It's up to you which one you want to use. But I've used a range of diaries because I know that diaries really help me in terms of to tap into that productive mindset and to be in a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset, which we'll actually talk a bit more about in other episodes. So really, before starting a Pomodoro session, what is important to do is to identify the specific task or topic you intend to work on. So this way you can actually jump right into the focus work without wasting time figuring out what to do next. Now, breaking larger tasks into smaller, more manageable tasks or subtasks can make your study and your work goals more achievable and motivating. And it's less daunting because if you have 6 topics to revise, 6 modules to revise for a summer exam, and you only have, for example, a month to do it, for example, by using the Pomodoro method, it makes it less daunting, less overwhelming, and you're less likely to procrastinate because it's done in a more manageable fashion. And you're able to consume that information more comfortably as well. So what did we just talk about? Yeah, so we spoke about really choosing the right space to work and to study in. And that is really integral because once you find the right space to study in, it actually greatly contributes to your work ethic than you might ever actually realize. Reason being, if I choose to work in a crowded cafe and I'm usually, and let's say I'm someone who's easily distracted by noise, I'm somebody who is easily distracted by other people walking up and down, I will struggle. Alternatively, if I actually start and studying in the library, which is quieter, yes, there are people around, but because the library is designed for quiet study, certain parts are, certain parts aren't. But let's say that the part of the library that I was in was designed for quiet study, it would make it much easier for me to actually meet my work and my study goals. And so that really epitomizes and really summarizes for us why it's so important to really choose the right work and study space. So moving on, really, it's really important to actually plan your study tasks in advance. Now, you might say, Faith, why is this important? Well, let's get stuck into this. Before you actually start a Pomodoro session, you need to identify the specific task or tasks or topics that you intend to work on. This is very important. This way, you can jump right into the focus work without wasting time figuring out what to do next. Additionally, breaking larger tasks into smaller, more manageable subtasks can again make your study and your work goals more achievable and motivating. So in the next section, actually, we're going to talk about the breaks. So we're going to talk about the importance of those breaks, as I mentioned before, the structure of the Pomodoro method developed by Francesco Carrillo was actually to study for a certain period of time and to have breaks. So after the first session, you'll have a shorter break, and after 4 sessions, you'll have a longer break. So that's what we're going to discuss in the next section. Let's talk about the break. So during your short 5-minute breaks, it's really actually important and essential to basically come away from what you've just been doing. So completely step away from your study, step away from your work, and really engage in activities that for you promote relaxation and rejuvenation. Now, this is really important because it allows you actually to disassociate disassociate yourself from that task and not become too overwhelmed or too daunted by what you have to do and not become too tired. Because imagine if let's say, going back to when I was studying politics, I'm studying comparative science or political science, for example, and I'm studying that in depth for 25 minutes, and I step away for 5 minutes, and then I watch the news or something. Now, that can work for some people, whereas for other people, their brain might classify that as kind of the same thing as studying, and so it makes it harder to jump back into that. That's just one example. Again, it's subjective. I'm just speaking hypothetically and using examples that I've personally found as well in my own study journey. So other examples and ways that you can actually do activities and engage in activities that A, promote relaxation, and B, promote rejuvenation is number 1, to stretch, take a short walk, or do some deep breathing exercises to clear your mind. Personally, I don't meditate. Personally, for myself, I would take a short walk. I might go through some Bible scriptures. I might stretch my body because it's good that you're physically feeling, able to continue with your work or study. If you meditate, that's for you, but you have to find the right thing that works for you. As I always say, it's about finding that thing that works for you. For me, it's a Bible scripture. For somebody else, it might be meditation. For another person, it might actually be poetry. Or somebody else, it might be having a quick scroll through Instagram Reels or TikTok or whatever it may be, whatever social platform it may be, just to kind of disassociate again, that word crops up again, themselves from the task they've just been spending 25 focus minutes on that task. And so these breaks not only prevent, mental fatigue and tiredness, but they provide the opportunity to reflect on your progress, for one, and also to plan for the next Pomodoro session in advance. And so after you've actually completed these 4 Pomodoro sessions, it's time for a longer, more extended break. So this break is a bit different. Some people will use this break to recharge your energy. They might have some lunch, grab a snack and recharge. or engage in activities that again help you to relax and recharge. So the similarity between the 5-minute break and the longer break, which may be 15-20 minutes for some people, the key or the crux of these breaks is number one, relaxation, number two, rejuvenation, and number three, recharging the body and the mind as well. Those are the three important. So we will reiterate that again. So it's for rejuvenation, relaxation, and re-energizing yourself, your physical body, recharging yourself, recharging your physical body, and relaxing your body and re-energizing both your physical and your mental state as well. And so the purpose, as I said before, of these breaks is to revitalize your focus. So try and use this time wisely. So the Pomodoro method is a very versatile technique that can be adapted to suit different study preferences and needs. Some people may find that shorter or longer intervals work better for them. So this is where it gets very interesting. So with the Pomodoro method, you're not actually restricted to 25-minute study or work sessions. You can actually say, okay, I'm going to kick off my day with 40 minutes of study session, pairing that with a 10-minute break for my short break, and then ending with a 15-20-minute break. It's up to you. And for me, what I really find helpful to actually engage in that Pomodoro method, to utilize that, is the Life at website, Life and then AT. That is really helpful for me because I get virtual screens. I could be virtually in a library, I could be at a cafe, and it comes with the sounds as well. There is a pro package, but you can get it for free as well. I use it for free. And for example, I would click on a cafe or I would click on a waterfall, and not only am I given the visual aid of the waterfall to study, and also given the natural sounds of the waterfall. Alternatively, you can also, if you have an Apple device, you can head to settings, turn on hearing, and you can actually choose background sounds, one of which is rain, which is really, really helpful to get into the study mood. Or you can listen to music, so it's really up to you. Other people have used apps in the App Store like Pomodoro timers. There's actually a Chrome extension for Pomodoro. So it's really about what works for you. Some people just grab their phone and will just pop a timer on, but I find it's easier if I'm using an app or a website because it controls it for me. So as I said before, so it's very subjective. It depends on who you are, what you're experiencing and stuff like that. I just realized that my mic has just been pointing down towards the table for the last 5 minutes of this section. So I've just adjusted it so you may hear a slight adjust in the volume levels. So some individuals, again, they will find that working shorter or longer intervals will work better for them. Again, it's subjective. Okay, so experimentation is actually key to finding what works best for you and best for your productivity and concentration levels. And so as a study podcaster, as a student, I have actually tried I've tried several study methods. Not all of them work for me. For example, I prefer the Pomodoro method over the Cornell method, whereas somebody else might prefer the Cornell method over the Pomodoro method. But again, subjectivity, meaning that you have to find, again, I'm going to revert back to something that I've just said. Experimentation, that is the key word today of the minute, is key to finding what works best for your productivity, for your concentration levels, and what really helps you in terms of getting the most things done. So before we actually conclude today's episode, let's recap the main takeaways from our discussion and breakdown of the Pomodoro method. So, number one, the Pomodoro method is a time management technique that breaks work or study time into 25-minute intervals called Pomodoros, followed by short breaks. Number two, the structured intervals help you to maintain focus and prevent burnout, while the breaks allow for mental rejuvenation, relaxation, and for you to be re-energized. Number three, find a quiet and distraction-free study or work environment to maximize concentration. Number four, plan your study or your work tasks in advance to make the most of your Pomodoro sessions. Number five, during your breaks, actually engage in activities that promote relaxation and reflection. Number six, after completing 4 Pomodoros, take a more extended break to recharge your physical and mental energy. Number 7, adapt the technique to your preferences and experiment with different interval lengths to find what works best for you. And so that is literally a wrap for today's episode of Faith and Health Insights, where we delved into the Pomodoro method, developed and introduced by Francesco Carrillo. And that is basically, that's the method. That is the crux of the Pomodoro method. It is studying for, it is doing 4 study sessions, and after the 4th Pomodoro, it is then taking a longer break, not forgetting to take shorter breaks between those 4 sessions. So The Pomodoro method really can help you to enhance your study skills, your work, productivity, and so much more in your life. So remember actually to implement these strategies and see how they transform your productivity and focus. Feel free to write a comment here. I've transferred back from Buzzsprout to Anchor or Spotify for podcasters, and one of the great features of Spotify for podcasters, this is not an ad, I'm just telling you what I really enjoy, is actually the polls or the Q&A section. So feel free to actually answer this question about whether you learned more about the Pomodoro method. And so, remember to implement these strategies, see if they make a difference, because sometimes they may not make a difference. Sometimes they may really transform your study and your work life as well. But hopefully they will actually help you to manage your time more effectively, because time management is very important. So join me next time as I will continue to explore more exciting topics pertaining to or related to education, study skills, and learning. Until then, keep studying smart, keep excelling. This is your host, Faith Brunel, signing off. Bye-bye.